Good morning, students. You are welcome back to the new academic year. And today we are going to start biology, the chapter 6. Before we start, please close your eyes and pray 1 second. Okay, tissues. We are going to see the chapter tissues. That is chapter 6. You can see all the living organisms are made up of cells, and it is a basic unit of all living organisms. Like a house is made up of bricks, you can see that living organisms are made up of cells, and that is the basic unit of all living organisms. So, cells are the basic unit of all living organisms. You know, some of the organisms are having only one cell, and you know the example amoeba, it is only having one cell. But with one cell, they can do all the life activities, like they can feed, they can excrete, they can respire, they can reproduce. With one cell, they can do all these activities. And in higher organisms or multicellular organisms, you can see there are millions of cells, and the millions of cells are doing different functions. So, what is a tissue? We are going to define what is a tissue. A group of cells having same structure and the same function is called a tissue. So, what is a tissue? Group of cells having same structure and function. So, a tissue means group of cells having same structure and function. So, you can see, for example, in our body, muscle is a tissue. It is made up of one type of cells, muscle cells, and brain, it is made up of nervous tissue. So many different tissues are present in our body. So, the tissues of animals and plants, they are completely different. Animals are having different type of tissue. You will study later about parenchyma, collenchyma, like different tissues are present in plants also. Why there are difference between plant tissue and animal tissue? So, we are going to see that one. Why there is difference between plant tissue and animal tissue? So, mainly plants are stationary. Plants are stationary. Stationary means they cannot move, and animals are not stationary. Animals, they move. So, most of the cells in plants, most of the cells like trees and even other plants, most of the cells are dead cells. For example, if you examine wood, actually most of the cells in the wood they are dead cells. So, that is one difference between why there is difference between plant and animal tissue. One difference is that plants are stationary, not moving, animals are not stationary. And the second one, in animals, they consume more energy. You can see, since there is movement, more energy is required for animals, and the plants require less energy. And the third important point, so first one, so the second one is plant needs less energy, animals need more energy. Third one, you can see plant growth is limited only at certain points. For example, if you examine a plant, the tip will be growing, the root tip will be growing, and it may be increasing in diameter. So, only certain parts of the plants are growing. But animals, you can see there is uniform growth, all the parts are growing equally. So, this is also another difference why there is difference between plant and animals tissue. Okay. Another important difference why there is another plant and animal tissues are different. Another important one is fourth one, their feeding methods are different. You can see animals, they are heterotrophic. You know what is heterotrophic? They depend on other organisms for food, but plants are autotrophic. They can make their own food. So because of these differences, you can see plant tissues and animal tissues are quite different from each other. So we are going to see different type of plant tissues. That is the first thing we are going to see. So once again, okay, tissues means group of cells having same structure and function, and you can see there are different type of tissues in multicellular organisms, and unicellular organisms only one cell, but that one cell can do all the activities that we are doing. For example, they can excrete, they can respire, and they can reproduce, all the activities. Amoeba, one cell can do all this. And multicellular organisms, you can see different tissues are present, and each tissue is doing a particular function. I explained that muscle is doing one function, nerve cells are doing another function. And why there is difference between plants and animal tissue? That is, some points are here. For example, plants are not moving and animals are moving. So plant tissues, most of the plant tissues are dead cells, and you can see animals are moving. So there is a lot of difference between plant and animal tissue. Second one is, animals use more energy because of movement. They move from place to place, they use more energy, and that is the second difference. And the third one, plant growth is limited only at certain points, and so that also is plant growth is limited. So plant growth is limited only at a certain region, for example, root tip, stem tip, and so on. But animal growth is uniform. Because of these differences between plants and animals, you can see tissues are also different. So we are going to see the important tissues in plants. Now, first we are going to discuss about plant tissues. First type is meristematic tissue. Yeah, as I already told you, you can see the plant growth is limited only at certain points, and so there are specialized cells present at certain points of the plant, and these tissues, actively dividing these tissues, are called meristematic cell. If you examine a plant, you can see the meristematic cells are located at three regions. One, usually you can see they are seen at the tip region, and this meristematic tissue is called apical meristem. Apical meristem means the meristematic cells present at the tip of the plant is called apical meristem. And another group of meristematic cells, that is, you can see only inside the plant, and that is helping the plant to grow in diameter, girth, and this is called lateral meristem. And if you examine plants like grass, you can see from the node, this is the node, and the part of the node, you can see meristematic tissue is there, and this meristematic tissue, they help the growth in length of the plant, and this meristematic tissue is called intercalary meristem. So, three different types of meristematic tissues based on their position. One is apical meristem, second one is lateral meristem, third one is intercalary meristem. Apical meristem, I already told you that it is helping the cells here, tip of the plant, and this one is helping to grow the plant and in length, that is the importance of apical meristem. And you can see lateral meristem, that is inside, it is also called cambium, you will study later. And this lateral meristem, when it divides, and you can see it will increase the girth of the plant, that means diameter of the plant. And the next one, as you are familiar with the grass, between the nodes, this is one node, another node can be here. Between the node there is a part, very soft part, and that part of that meristem, it helps to increase the length of the node, and that one is called intercalary meristem. So these are the three important meristematic tissues. And if we examine this meristematic tissue, these cells are different from the other cells because there will be, you can see, thin walled. The walls will be thin. What are the characteristics? Question is this one. What are the characteristics of meristematic tissues? They have a thin wall. You can see the walls will not be thin, very thin walls. Plant cell, thin walls. You already studied the structure of cell. You can see there are vacuoles. Maybe there is no nucleus also will be there. This is the nucleus, cell wall, cytoplasm, and inside you can see so many other organelles are there. And usually in a meristematic cell, vacuoles will be very small. In other cells, there will be very big vacuoles. Sometimes no vacuole, and if there is vacuole, it will be very small vacuoles. And also you can see very actively dividing cell. These cells will be very actively dividing because this actively dividing cell make it to grow. So it will multiply very fast and filled with you can see protoplasm, filled with protoplasm. And so these are the characteristic of meristematic cell. Once again, meristematic cells are very actively dividing cell. They will multiply very fast, and this make the plant to grow. So they are thin walled, and you can see they contain. So now first type of tissue is over already. That is a meristematic tissue, and I already told you that its location and also its function. Now we are going to see permanent tissues. Permanent tissues, and that is the second group of tissue in plants. So permanent tissues, they are two types: simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. Permanent tissues, they are not actively dividing, they are not helping the growth. Permanent tissues, they are two types. One is called simple permanent tissue, and a complex permanent tissue. So there are two types of permanent tissues: simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. Okay, first one we are going to see simple permanent tissue. That is the first type. Okay, simple permanent tissue. There are three important types are there. Simple permanent tissue. Three important examples are there. Three important types are there. One, parenchyma. Parenchyma is a very important simple permanent tissue. If you examine this tissue, you can see it is made up of thin walls. The tissue will be like this. It is made up of, this is one cell, Group of cell is called a tissue. This is made up of thin walls. So each one is a cell. And you can see there may be space between the two cells. This is intercellular space. This space is called intercellular space. So there may be space between the cell, or some of the parenchyma may be without intercellular space also. You can draw it like this. You can see without a space means it will be like this. It can be with intercellular space or without intercellular space. So no space between. No space in between the cell. And this is one of the most important tissue, and you can see mainly this one is for storage, store food, and sometimes this is used for storage food, and sometimes you can see it may contain chloroplast, green colored chloroplast may be there, and if there is chloroplast in parenchyma, we call it a chlorenchyma. So parenchyma with the chloroplast is called chlorenchyma. So what is a chlorenchyma? Chlorenchyma means it is a parenchyma tissue, and inside the parenchyma tissue there is a chloroplast is there. These dots represent a chloroplast. If there is chloroplast, it is called chlorenchyma. So this is another type of. Then second type of parenchyma tissue is sometimes you can see maybe air space, a lot of air space between the cells to make the plant float, and this kind of parenchyma is called aerenchyma. Parenchyma and aerenchyma. These are two types of parenchyma. One is having chloroplast, another one is having air space between the cell. So then it is called big air spaces between the cell. Then it is called aerenchyma. So this is one simple type. Second simple permanent tissue is collenchyma. Collenchyma is second important permanent tissue. And if you examine this cell, first type is like this, thin walled cell, like this. And the second type, if you examine, in the corners of these cells are very thick. See, these are the corners. Look at the corners of the cells are thick. For example, this is a corner. This corner will be thick, and you can see corners are very thick. Now, what is the advantage of having this cell? And it is present in leaf stalk. Leaf stalk means the petiole of the leaf, and other places where the plant can easily move. When there is a wind, it can move without breaking. You can see the leaf will not break, or that part will not break, because there is a more thick cell, and this cell is called as sclerenchyma. So what is sclerenchyma? The corners of the cells are thick, and it is helping the plant, the bending of the plant, and that is the second type. Third type, one more type is there. Third type is called sclerenchyma. If you examine sclerenchyma, you can see the cell walls are uniformly thick, very thick cells. When the cell walls are uniformly thick, meaning the cell will be like this. How it is thick. You can see this is the wall, now it is not thick. See, make one more line inside, meaning the cavities are very small. Cavity means another name is lumen. We use the word lumen. So the cell will be like this, uniformly very thick. And this kind of cells, they are present in the wood of the plant, and thick part of the plants you can see there is a sclerenchyma will be there. So hard, stiff, and usually this is the dead cells. So these are the three different type of parenchyma, three different type of simple permanent tissues: parenchyma, collenchyma, and the sclerenchyma. So once again, let us see. So initially I discussed what are tissues. Tissues are group of cells having same structure and function. They are known as tissues. And and then we discussed that there is difference between plants and animal tissues. Why there is a difference between plant and animal? Because plants cannot move, animals can move. And second one is they use more energy, and you can see they have plants are having limited growth, animals are uniformly growing, and there are, because of different feeding methods, plant and animal tissues are different. Second thing, we discussed that discuss about different type of plant tissues. The plant tissues, you can see it can be divided into simple permanent tissue. First one, meristematic tissues and permanent tissues. Meristematic tissues are cells present in the growing part of the plant, and that is divided into three types: apical meristem, lateral meristem, and intercalary meristem. And in your textbook there is a diagram showing the position. Apical meristem make the plant to grow up, and even root tip also is there. It increases the length of the plant. Second one, intercalary and lateral meristem. You can see intercalary and lateral meristem function. You can see intercalary meristem, it is helping the internode to grow. Lateral meristem make the plant to grow in width or diameter. Then we discuss about some permanent tissues. Permanent tissues are two types: simple permanent tissues and complex permanent tissue. Simple permanent tissue, there are three types of simple permanent tissue. One is parenchyma, one is collenchyma, one is sclerenchyma. Parenchyma, I explained, it is a very thin walled cells, and also it is maybe having space between, and usually they are storing food in the plant. And the second important simple permanent tissue is collenchyma. Collenchyma is the corners of the cells are thick, and it makes the plant to bend, or for example, it is present in the leaf stalk and other part of the plant which needs bending. And the third one is sclerenchyma, very thick walled cells. Usually they are dead cells present in the hard part of the plant, and that is sclerenchyma. Next type is complex permanent tissues. So we will see that one later. Permanent tissues we will see later. Okay, thank you.